Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Sleep In Sunday. Sunday morning, you get to sleep until 8 o'clock, and today, we're sleeping until noon today. I rolled out of bed at 11:40. I'm just kidding. Okay. But by the mercy of Harley, we're doing it at noon today, and I'm super happy that we still have people joining us. Got 67 people joining us live. Harley, welcome to the show, brother.
That was the nice way of saying it's his fault we're so late today.
If you don't know Harley Flanagan, he is an incredible, he was an influencer before they had the word influencer. Isn't that true, Kaustubha? He was an influencer before they had the word influencer. He influenced everybody. And he was a young, artistic, incredibly talented musician with a twist of scary guy in him. And now he's a father, a husband, a black belt in jiu-jitsu under Renzo Gracie. And he still makes incredible music. He's still, he's just like I think the biggest connection with the entire show is he basically sort of taught me and Kaustubha about Bhakti, the first person that we heard.
Yeah.
And we call that in Sanskrit the Vartma Pradarshana Guru.
Vartma Pradarshika.
Did I say that wrong?
Yeah.
Vartma Pradarshana. I really thought I got it right.
Correct your Sanskrit too much. I feel bad when I do because I'm not very good either. Yeah, but
it means the first person who sort of like you heard it about, who spoke to you and it sort of resonated with you, even though you might not have got it. Harley, anyway, we're honored to have you on the show, brother.
Well, it's an honor to be on your show, my friend, and both you guys, you both mean a lot to me, and so it's good to be here. And I don't really know the other people on the show. When you said I'm going to say welcome everybody to the show, I literally thought you were going to welcome the people that I'm looking at, like 4 people. But then, oh my God, you started welcoming people from all over the world. And I was like, whoa! All of a sudden, the pressure's on. I'm like, I ain't talking to like 5 people here. I'm talking to people everywhere.
You got 72 people.
72 right now. Yeah.
How are you? How's everybody doing?
Everybody's
honestly,
doing
Harley, we're kind of thrilled. It's like for us, this is special because, I thought I would say that like a lot of our listeners do come from like, the hardcore world or the punk rock world, but probably vast majority probably not. So like those that do come from that world, they'll know of you. They'll know your name. They know who you are. But a lot of our listeners don't. But the only way that they may know is because every now and then, from time to time, Raghunath and I just bring you up because, because we have this, it's a lifetime of appreciation for, in a sense, what you shared with us. So for us, it's kind of a thrill to have you on and just to be able to express our own, our gratitude in a sense. But, like Raghunath gave a little bio, but really, there's no way you can really kind of like squeeze your life into a bio. It's just like too much. But I think we have to give our listeners some kind of context to understand, just how unique your life is.
You want to update my bio, Kaustubha?
Well, let's start here. I think first and foremost, Harley's like a musician, right? Like, but from a very early age, like you began playing music at what age, Harley?
Oh, I don't really ever remember a time before playing music, honestly. But I started professionally playing in clubs around the age of maybe 10 or so. But
Right, 10,
Hold on a second. Did everybody hear what he just said? He started professionally playing in clubs when he was 10 years old. That is while the rest of us were in Cub Scouts. He was playing at Max's Kansas City. I was going to a Cub Scout meeting at that time.
Well, I was going to say, actually, the first money I ever made, I made on the street playing music, like years prior to that with other kids. So it's like I was always playing. Music has always been there for me. It's like some things you're just, I guess, born to do. You know, they're just, I don't know whether it's a, genetic predisposition or whatever, but there's definitely. Hey, you know what? It's a large part of the reason why I met you guys, and why whatever other things that may have inspired you, came through that ultimately, if you really get down to it, because if you wouldn't have been attracted to that, you wouldn't have been attracted to the possibilities of whatever else I had to offer.
Sure. Well, the thing is, like, and when we say he was 10 years old and playing playing professionally, he was playing like in these really seedy clubs in New York, which have now become legendary. Then they were like totally underground, but like CBGB's and Max's Kansas City. You were in a band called the Stimulators, which was kind of like New York's punk rock band in a sense, like I think in the late 70s in a sense, And but even before that, when you're 8 years old, I think, right? When you're 8, you published a book of poetry. And
it was so much a book of poetry. It was like short stories and mostly illustrations. But the introduction, which is sort of, I guess, where you're going with this, is the somewhat interesting part, was this well-known writer, poet, Allen Ginsberg, who was a friend of my mom's. He did the intro for the book, which is, I guess, ultimately why it got published and stuff. But whatever. I mean, it's pretty cool. It's for you. It's a whatever. For most people who try. Well, what I was going to say, the interesting thing is that I remember Alan pretty well. As a kid, because he was real close with my mom. And there, there's certain things about the guy that I don't, I'm not too fond of. There's other, but I have a lot of good memories of him. He was actually a decent guy, at least to me in my life, and to my family. He was a very generous person, very nice. He let me and my mom live in one of his apartments for a long time when we had nowhere to stay. And, he just did a lot of good stuff for my family. So I'll never trash him too hard, because I have, some people, when you know somebody intimately, you're going to know good and bad about them.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
And, he's actually the person that was, since this show is about Krishna consciousness, I guess, he was chanting Hare Krishna in America before Prabhupada even came here.
That's right.
Which I think is fascinating. So, there's certain things about Krishna consciousness that, although I'm not, a practicing devotee, but there's definitely always been that thing throughout my life, because I, like I told you guys, I did meet Prabhupada. I can't say met because I was a baby, so it's not like, hey, Prabhupada, how you doing?
Hey, you know what? That counts. That counts.
Well, no, I know it does, but that's the whole, yeah. No, I mean, that's the whole point I'm bringing it up, because, for people who are into this, I say for people who are into this, because for other people, it's like, so what? But for people who are into consciousness, that's a big deal, and I get that it's a big deal. Just like I appreciate, someone giving you some kind of life-changing information or life-changing music is a big deal, I mean, I think I showed this to you. I'm just going to show it to everybody. So there's people out here watching. I see you have a nice picture behind you. My mother actually drew this 2 years before I was born. I don't know if you can see it well.
Oh, wow. It's a beautiful picture of Gopal Krishna holding a flute.
Nice.
Yeah.
Most of the people watching most of the people will just be hearing this, but that is a beautiful picture that his mother drew. And you grew up on the Lower East Side, and the Bhakti thing is so massive now. What to speak of what Prabhupada did in America? It spread all over the world, but it respread and resurrected a Bhakti movement in India, and the core of it all was on the Lower East Side, and you and your mom were there, which is a very interesting thing.
I was at the Second Avenue Preaching Center. That's where I was in the presence of the man, and of course at Prabhupada's tree, but also at Rath Yatra in San Francisco and stuff like that. But
no kidding.
I mean, it's like really funny, I mean, my mom didn't tell me for many years. She was like, "You almost got named Harley Krishna, but I figured you probably want to kill me when you got older." And there was she's probably right.
It's funny that you tell us that you're like at the San Francisco Rath Yatra, which is like a whole historical thing too. But because
well, my family was involved with a lot of historical things. If you know anything about my family, for the people out there who don't, I mean, it's like my family's kind of like the Gump family, like as far as people always call me the Gump of punk, but it's like, because I was there for everything. Like, like Anthony Bourdain was like, if there was anything cool that happened that was, of any meaning in New York between like 1970, whatever, and like 2000 and like, whatever,
you played a
was
role
there, or he was directly involved with it, or he was in the room. And, not to like be like, but
they're interesting, fun facts, and they shaped you, and they shaped you as an influencer.
What I was going to say is, it's not just me though. It's actually, my mom and like my aunts and my family have like a history of just, being around and involved with, influential, legendary type people. So I guess that just rubs off. I mean, I guess this was if you want to call it my karma or my
destiny,
whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's been an interesting journey. I'll say that much.
So I was going to say, let's just clarify, just so that our listeners understand. So what you're saying is that when you were like an infant, your mother was down with people like Allen Ginsberg, and probably maybe through that connection got interested in what Prabhupada was doing at 26th Avenue, and somehow brought you around there when Prabhupada was there.
I wouldn't say so, that she was so interested in that. She was a hippie, and she just thought it was probably just like, oh,
she maybe would go in there to get something to eat.
But like same reason I was going to get food when I was going in the 80s. I mean, when I like read about the stuff, we're for the listeners out there, and you guys already know because you were there for Ray's interview. They're doing a documentary about this life of mine here, and in the process, I uncovered a lot of writings that my mom had written about my very early childhood, and it was pretty grim. It was not like, oh, my mom was this wonderful devotee. It's like, no, there was a lot of really real heavy duty drug use, a lot of real scummy shit. And I can totally see how, just like, living on, well, you guys remember what the days, the 80s were like on the hardcore scene. I mean, it was like people living in burnt out buildings. I was living in burnt out buildings. I was living on the streets. I was panhandling when I was a kid. I was hustling. I was stealing. I was doing what I had to do. And it was pretty grim, But apparently I'd been raised that way. It's like my mom pretty much was hitchhiking with me my whole childhood, like as a little kid, as a baby, I should say. And, just like, I was wired for like chaos and madness and all this, man, Totally.
Yeah. Well, if people want to read about Harley's life, you have an autobiography called
and that
Hardcore
thing
Life
just
of Mine.
touched the surface. That touched the surface. Like now that I'm like really like,
You're going deeper. Well, I remember you shared that with me before it was published, for me to take a look at. I remember, and I remember that
Yeah.
reading it kind of like connected a lot of dots for me, and so not in your life, as in terms of your own life, as well as in terms of like even like the history of punk rock in New York or hardcore New York. But you're getting to an interesting point, which is that like, yeah, your childhood was certainly very unique, but it was also a difficult childhood in many ways, and New York was a difficult place at that time. It was much rougher than it is right now, and it was in that scene that was there at that time was a really wild scene. And so I guess maybe where we could take this is like, within that hardcore scene, like in New York, a lot of wild kids, and somehow, it seemed like there was a group, including yourself, like some of the wildest kids, right, from an early age, somehow were into Krishna, and I think for a lot of people it's like
Okay,
how did the two connect?
I see how you're trying to like loop this into the story. Let me just cut right to it. Okay? I can abbreviate the story very quickly. Okay, it's real simple. Okay, let's just cut right through it. You guys were there, so if you guys want to call, to all you listeners out there, I am going to curse from time to time because I just do. So I apologize in advance.
They've been warned. They've been warned ahead of time.
So if you guys want to call bullshit at any time, feel free, because I don't take offense, because everybody sees things differently from their perspective. You can have 10 people all at the same event, and they may all walk away with a different perspective on what just went down, even though they all just watched the same exact thing.
Sure.
Okay. So, my band was big. We were pretty. Let's just go back a little further. As you said, I was an influencer. Screw the fucking band, right? I was an influencer. These are your words. I'm not patting myself on the back here.
We'll pat your back for you.
I'll take it because I love you guys. But and then you got like Cro-Mags was my new project. It was like my pet project when I left the Stimulator. So I went from being this kind of like, I don't want to say kid star on the punk rock scene, but yeah, I was kind of a local celebrity in the club world. I was always in the papers, this and that. I was in all these things that would have made me a celebrity back then if there was such a thing for nightclub stuff like that, whatever. You know what I mean? Like I was hanging out with Andy Warhol and Blondie and and all the cool people and whatever. So then by the time I started Cro-Mags, we kind of had some, and let's just face it, Cro-Mags was a pretty ripping band. We were like one of the best bands at the time, period, in that world.
You were the best. You're the best.
Yeah, we had, we did. I'm not gonna like pretend, man. We were strong, we were musicians. We weren't just like some run-of-the-mill bullshit hardcore band. We took it.
You guys could play.
Serious.
Yeah.
You guys could play, and that was a rare thing because a lot of the bands couldn't really play. I couldn't. We couldn't. We tried our best to play. You guys were actually, and I would love to hear that backstory. Like, how did you guys get so good at music? Like, all of you guys were like accomplished musicians.
I'll tell you why. It's because the first generation of hardcore bands didn't have other hardcore bands to learn from. So we all came in with whatever influences that we had prior to hardcore. And because we were all musicians, those influences were very vast. So for me, even though I was predominantly listening to punk rock, and that first few hardcore bands, you want to call them, like the Bad Brains and Circle Jerks, Black Flag, all this stuff that was just starting to happen, and those DC bands that were, I was seeing minor threats. So for me, that was what was happening, right? I was like, I got to create something that's next level. Like, screw this Stimulators. This is like old hat. This is like pop punk crap shit. I'm young. I'm aggressive. I was a skinhead, so the music had to reflect my what up, kid? The music had to reflect my aggression. Yeah. I was listening to bands like Discharge and things like Motorhead, and I was very, as you guys know, I listened to so much different types of music, not just hardcore. I was listening to fusion, all kinds of crap. So anyway, yeah, we were influencers, the band. Now, why were all those tough guys into us? Well, you know my reputation. You tell them, man.
No,
Who was
that I
when was
know.
that?
But I think the question was,
It's like, you know, it's like, why did all these tough, crazy people who were typically, you know, very troubled or whatever gravitate towards Krishna consciousness? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at who the influence was.
Right.
What was I like at that time?
Of course. So then I guess with then like the people are saying that then, well, how did you get into it?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I was born into it. You saw the picture.
yeah, I guess
That's
true.
called getting the mercy of the pure devotee. It's historically happens, actually. You know, Kaustubha.
But yeah,
someone sees a great saint, tags him on the forehead.
In any
Life
case, you know,
has
so like by the time, you know, like, you know, I met you when I was 15, you were 14. And but I think it was, you know, a few more years down the road where, like, for instance, the first thing that I really picked up from you was like vegetarianism, right? Like you were like, you know, quite, you know, like skilled, I would say, at kind of like, you know, presenting arguments for that. And you know, and then it just kind of went from one level to the next, you know, hearing from you. But I you know, when I say that, like, both Raghunath and I are grateful here, like, I think in different ways you influenced us. For me, it was even like less through the music. It was just like knowing you and having so many like conversations, like, you know, sitting on a stoop or on a park bench and just like discussing philosophy, discussing life. But what blew my mind was like you know, you were like, I don't even know if you even went, like, you weren't even exactly a high school dropout. I don't know if you even began high school, right?
I make it to high school, dude.
Okay,
I never made it to high school.
You never made it, yeah. So, but still, you were like quite articulate in expressing these, you know, ideas that, you know, go back so many centuries. And it was, I could sit there and watch you, you know, whether you're discussing with me or discussing with other people, and just see like you had answers for like all these different questions about life. Which for me, it was like, you know, all the pieces.
He was 14.
Yeah, or maybe a little older, but at that point.
Well, you know, when you're young, you feel like you know everything first of all, you know. So I was pretty committed to what I thought I knew. We were just, you know, I was just lucky to get the little bit of mercy that I got, you know.
Well, we were lucky that you passed it on, so we're always grateful.
I mean, it's, you know, it's actually like, it's really funny because, I mean, you know, for those who don't know, well, my life had a lot of violence in it, a lot of abuse, a lot of crazy stuff. So, like, I remember the first time I went to Gitanagri.
Farm, yeah.
Yeah. It may have been like the first time where I really kind of felt like peace that I could remember.
Right.
You know, because like I literally lived in burnt out buildings. You know, I literally had no running water, and I literally stole food to eat. And at the same time, I was this influencer, which is kind of funny. You know.
There was no money to be made.
I know you couldn't use it like monetize it like you could on Instagram.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm at a place in life where I'm like super just grateful for all those experiences. You know. Yeah. I got some funny stories I was thinking about leading up to this.
All right.
We did a show in London. Remember this, Ray?
Yes, I do. I can remember it like it was yesterday.
This was funny for people who are into hardcore. Some of you will get a kick out of this. Well, these guys came to see us play, right? And my old drummer.
That means Raghunath and his band came to see
me, yeah. Paramananda.
Well, it was just really funny. Okay, because like the only reason I was thinking about it is because I was telling this story to my guitarist the other day, and he started dying because he was like, "Oh man, those shelter guys are like the nicest guys on earth, man. You know, oh, dude, like what the hell? Because like, you know, for those who don't know, me and Matt, you have a little bit of a history, right? You know, I got no problem with the guy. Actually, I got more love for all those guys than any of them realize. But anyway.
So the Cro-Mags drummer, let people know, the Cro-Mags drummer was now playing with Shelter. Was playing with Shelter.
He was playing with Shelter for a moment.
And Harley had an issue, and they had an issue with each other.
Well, he had more of an issue than I did. Let's just put it that way. So he got a little too close to me, like this close to me. All right, you know, I've tolerated a lot of stuff from him because he had been my drummer for years. So I always used to, I always say in the back of my head, okay, you can't beat up your drummer. So anyway, he said, he got right up in my face, and then I'm like, what are you gonna do? And he put his hands like he was about to touch my neck, and just my impulse, I didn't even really think. I just leaned back a little bit on my heel and said, bah, and just put his nose like nicely into the back of his face, and he went reeling back, and it was like
I was like, there goes our tour. There goes our
tour. Well, no. So of course, you know, I'm about to follow up. I have a padlock in my back pocket with a bandana, you know, just impulse, you know. And then I'm like, oh, I can't do that. The bouncer's like, you want to throw him out? I'm like, no, watch the show. Now, this had nothing to do with Shelter, right? Now, but Bobby Handball was there, who was playing guitar with
Bobby at Biohazard. Bobby from Biohazard.
And he doesn't know anything. Well, he doesn't know nothing. And he bursts into the dressing room and pulls out a switchblade and starts going, who's laughing with Harley? Who's on Ray?
The Shelter guys are coming to try to fight us.
And I'm like, no,
it was like the lion came back into the cave, and I was standing there like, what am I doing here?
It's just like, no. And I'm like, no. It was just so funny, man, because I'm just, you know, for people who are into hardcore, you know, they know they know about Cro-Mag nonsense, right? And they also know that these guys are like, they're nice guys. That's not their thing. So just the idea of Bobby Handball pulling a switchblade on Shelter backstage over Mackie, oh God, it was so comedic. Some real.
You saved my life that night, Harley. You saved my life. If I can give a little preamble to that story.
You may have ruined his tour, but you saved his life.
If I give you tour ended? Well, I broke his nose. I didn't break his nose.
Tour went on. It was good. But if I can tell a little pre-story to that story was, we were in England and we were about to play. We had a couple days off, and Harley's new band was playing, and we had recorded with their drummer, and Harley's drummer was playing in our band. So we thought, well, I know there's some
drummers going.
Yeah, bands. This, you know.
God.
So I was thinking, we should go in good faith. I know Harley and the drummer might have some issues. Let's just go and show up and be positive and support them.
I would have been cool with him. I would have been cool with everybody, man. I don't know why he had to come at me with such negativity.
But we never knew how Harley was going to react. So we're in line waiting outside.
Who the hell does he think he is? I mean, I'm just going to let some man put his hands on my neck. Come on, man.
Kaustubha, if you could have relived this thing, we're waiting in line. The London fog is out behind a street light, and we see this silhouette of a guy, a human pit bull, walking down the street, carrying something, swinging in his hand. And as he got closer, I was like, that is Harley, and I don't know what the hell is swinging in his hand. As he got closer, it was a lock that you would use to lock an elephant in a cage, like a big.
Oh yeah, my padlock. Yeah, on the bandana.
Tied with a bandana. And I was like, that is either going to be received on my forehead, or it's going to be cool. But I just don't know what side of the bed this man woke up on today. And he came up to me, I came up to me. I was like, oh, please, God, no. And he just embraced me. Hey, man, how are you?
We've been friends, brother. You know, I mean, we go way back. I always liked you, you know. Even when I thought you were a jackass, I liked you.
Thank you, my friends. Many still think I'm a jackass, but can I just share
It's all
that?
right. Most people, but at least half the people that know my name think I'm an asshole. So, but you know what? It goes into territory.
By the way, I want to say there's a lot of people out there that were inspired in the music scene, in vegetarianism, and sometimes people give me the credit, but I give the credit to you because you were the one, like Kaustubha, you talked to us, you spoke about vegetarianism, you pushed me towards a Vedic path, which is like, of course, every living being is alive and feels pain and is, and is a spiritual being. That's a huge thing for a 17-year-old to understand. Like especially in the 80s, when being a vegetarian or a vegan is like completely not in the conversation.
Especially not for me. I was a skinhead, dude. I was like a violent street kid, man. So for me to go, but I mean, as everybody who goes down the road of Krishna consciousness or anything else for that matter, any spiritual path, you make new friends and you lose a lot of old ones. I remember more than forget about half. It was like almost but I'm so used to this because the hardcore scene is so fickle, just like any other community. Groups of people, when it starts turning into groups, they become assholes. I like individuals. I don't like groups of any kind. It's like as soon as I, when I got into Krishna consciousness and started getting into vegetarianism or whatever order it was actually the other way around. Like all my old friends all started, shitting on me, talking crap about me. Oh, he's this, he's that. Oh, he got soft. I actually had to like re-earn my credit by like whooping a lot of people's asses who thought they were going to step to me. I'm sure you guys remember those days,
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Like, it was like people like, oh, Harley got soft, whatever, like all these like fake tough guys, whatever, So it's like I have to, remind them, who daddy was all over again. It's like, it gets boring. And I think I even told, you, both of you probably, when I started getting disillusioned with the whole hardcore scene, there was so much hero worship and so much false ego and all these little bullshit bands who all of a sudden thought they were like important. And I'm just looking at all these clowns who were like jocking me like, yo, you're just a bunch of sheep. It's like whoever, you just want somebody to lead you around. You just want to be accepted. I don't want nothing to do with any of this, man. I kind of got like, I was like looking at the people who were rioting it, like, man, you just some false ego, pretentious little king of the fishbowl dudes. Like, and I got fed up with all that, Bro, you guys both know. I mean, I ain't trying to be nobody's guru. I got enough problems of my own. And it's like I remember when a lot of like hardcore kids started coming out to the temple and stuff. Like you get all these like little, hardcore girls and stuff thinking they'd get to hang out, and come out there in their saris and want to hang out and talk and this and that. And it's like this and that. And like, and I'm just like, so this is the flavor of the week now. All right. Like now people want to follow me down this trip. And then like, not to crap on anything, I learned so much great stuff from Christian consciousness, but like I said, groups of people, it brings out like the worst. It brings out the worst in people. You got certain people who are really sincere about what they do, and then you got other people who are just manipulating things for their own glory, for their own benefit, for their own finances. And the more you see, the more you know, and the less I want anything to do with anything.
Yeah, sure.
I think,
that's why I'm just like, I don't want to be nobody's spiritual guide. I'm just gonna try, God bless, man. I ain't gonna tell nobody what to do. I call myself an agnostic because I ain't gonna try to tell anybody what's going down on the other side. That's not my job. I could be wrong. Don't follow me. I've been known to bump into walls before. Good luck. Find peace.
Well, I think Raghunath had similar experience with the whole straight edge thing too, right?
Yeah, identical.
sure.
Identical. You start to
I'm
lose
sure.
faith. Like, what is this monster that I created? Where we're not, no one's thinking about anything anymore. This isn't supposed to be the end all. This is supposed to be a threshold to something greater. And I will say that, both of us, you especially too, at such a young age, you were, friends with Joe Strummer from The Clash and Blondie and Warhol. And those photos are so iconic that they were all captured. If you look on Harley's, what's your Instagram account, Harley? Mara?
Harley F. Flanagan. Harley, there's an F in it for my middle initial, Francis.
Harley Francis.
Harley Francis Flanagan. And
Mara's gonna look it up and put it on the board
I
for us.
believe that's what it is. I don't.
It's
But
not
you
hard to find.
These pictures you post are like unbelievable. As a child, and to have that much fame and influence at a young age, it's a curse and it's a blessing. And it's a curse because you see the world in a way that other people just can't see it, because most people are looking up and trying to figure out how I can get up.
You do get a little bit cynical,
Yeah. Well, you start thinking like, why are they doing this? And why are they jocking me? Or why are they?
You just kind of realize how full of crap people are,
And it shows off.
And it leads to a lot of struggles too, because I think that, it's very disillusioning, as you both know in your own right.
Oops.
Everybody experiences the same type of emotional roller coasters. Just, we all have different lives.
Yeah. It's true.
But there's a depth of insight you get from having that, and which helps the artist create better. And that's what you were saying, Kaustubha. He was able to elucidate like deep philosophical points to a group of people who weren't deeply or philosophical. And that was my greatest appreciation and takeaway from Harley at age of, I probably knew you more when I was 17 and you were 16. I met you at A7. I knew of you because your name preceded you.
I always thought, I didn't think you were older than.
Huh?
I didn't think you were older than me.
A year, maybe.
I can't remember. I've got a bad internet today. Sorry.
No, I said I did not realize that you were older than me back then. A year is no big difference.
Yeah, 1 year. Although it's kind of a big deal when but you were kind of like somehow it was hard to think of you as younger. Yeah.
Yeah. I was an old soul for sure.
For sure. But Harley, sometimes when people ask me about Srila Prabhupada, like, to me, in my own personal way, and one of the most important things I have to say is that somehow he was able to communicate this ancient philosophy in a way that someone like you could understand and communicate. And to me, in one sense, that's like in one sense, that's maybe the most difficult thing to do is, to kind of communicate truth across cultures and across time. And so to me, it remains like kind of a real special wonder or blessing in my life, how somehow you played that role.
I don't know how I did, but I'm grateful for it. I know it changed your life for the better. I know it
Sure.
changed his life for the better. I see the example of what you do, and it's a beautiful thing. It's very inspiring. Ironically, I touched base with it and got what I got from it, but I'm still on my path.
Sure.
Again, I was very disillusioned with a lot of the things that I learned in Krishna consciousness, just about the inner workings and the politics and this and that. And just, I felt like, when Prabhupada died, it just kind of, I have friends who were around during that time who described it as kind of like a bunch of crime bosses trying to like jock for position, like when the old man goes type of vibe. And like, it was just like, I just got really kind of like, man, it's just, without him in place, it sort of just became like just, religion's important for people, but you know what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying.
Well,
And
course.
just like, for me, the only devotee that really inspired me was Patrick. You guys both know him. He was a disciple of Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada died, he left the movement because he's like, I don't want nothing to do with these people. I loved him. And so he was, his heart was broken. He lost his mind, as people will do when someone that they love passes. When you really love someone, I can't even imagine what it must be like to be, Prabhupada's personal servant and lose him, and then watch all of these other scavengers try to jockey the position. I would have lost my mind too, But like, so I just took away from it. One of the things that I really that was like my big takeaway was abandon all forms of religion and surrender unto me. That's really that was like the most powerful one for me, because like I don't need to surrender to any religion. I just need to have faith and that's just openness. That's just the willingness to believe. I don't pretend to know.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I'm grateful.
Well, so why don't we? We're grateful too, and why don't you just share a little bit about like what you're doing now? We talked about your past a lot, and what you're up to now.
I'm still very active musically. The last couple of years has been a little difficult for everybody. There's been a lot of touring, a lot of playing, but I have, excuse me, I have a short tour coming up in the States, just 10 shows with a punk rock band called The Exploited, which will be a lot of fun. And then 2 weeks after that, I go to Europe for about 2.5 months, I believe. We're going to be playing all over the place. I don't even know everywhere, by the end of the year, I think we're supposed to be in Japan and Australia and other places. I don't really keep track of that type of information. I just they get me there, and I take it from there. But aside from that, they're working on the documentary, which is coming out pretty impressive. I mean, I haven't actually seen any of the. I just know from the little bit that I know, and from the few things that I was privy to hearing in the interviews. The cast is pretty impressive. And,
is there a working title for that?
I don't know. I'm really staying out of the way.
All right. But also,
for it to be a real documentary, I can't really be involved.
Right. Yeah. But also a big part of your life is martial arts, right?
Yeah, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for. I started in '96, and I still train. Not as much as I'd like, but I still get in. I'll be going in Monday to get myself beat up a little bit.
For those who don't know, Harley's it's like a 10-year plan to get a black belt from Renzo Gracie. It's like you could have been a lawyer, you could have been a surgeon, and Renzo Gracie is one of the most respected fighters in the world. And you were there at ground right at the beginning of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is now huge.
It's another Gump thing.
Yeah, I was there, ground zero, man. Yeah, for people who don't know.
And you brought you brought me in. I met you in the subway, and UFC 1 and 2 were out. That was it. And I met you in the and I really wanted to learn it. And you said, "I'm going to jiu-jitsu. Want to come?"
I brought you, and I took So yeah, man.
Did you beat him up?
Another one for you, brother.
I know. I'm eternally in debt.
Yeah, man. If my wife ever kicks me out, you better have a guest room for me.
I got it all set up for you, man. I'm feed you, take good care of you.
He's got quite a few of them, actually. Are you still teaching jiu-jitsu also? Harley?
No, actually, I recently stopped after I had a couple of injuries. I had surgery,
Oh,
and
right.
since I recovered from my surgery, I started training again. I was a little bit out of shape. My I had to refresh my memory a little bit, so I started training again, and then I just fell in love with training again. I was like, you know, I don't really feel like teaching right now. I want to train. I want to do this for me. I don't want to. It just felt good to actually get beat up again instead of just like showing techniques and this and that. So I'm just back to training. You know, maybe I'll start teaching again. Who knows? I mean, it's one of those things. You know, I mean, I'm a second degree black belt. You know, I should have got my third degree by now, but you know, whatever. I just do it because I love it. It's part of what makes me feel good. It's part of what keeps me healthy and strong and feeling good about myself. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I still exercise like, you know, 4 or 5 days a week, pretty hard. I like to train at least a couple times a week, and you know, I still eat well and try to take good care of myself. I plan on killing it this summer when we go on tour.
And you got yourself a great wife too.
Yeah.
My
Tell
wife
Lo
is
we
amazing,
said
man.
hi.
She's awesome. Yeah, I absolutely will. You know, so life is great, man. You know, after everything I've been through, it's about goddamn time. You know.
It's a beautiful hero's journey, my friend, and we want to really thank you for coming on the show today.
That's
Oh, my
that's what I
brother,
want to
it's an
say. It's like
absolute pleasure, man.
we're
It's
both
an
so
absolute
happy to see
pleasure.
where you're at in your life right now, Harley. You know, like you know,
Yeah,
your
I mean,
life
you
could have
guys
gone so
saw me
many
through some.
ways.
Yeah, and you could see me through some ups and downs, man. I mean, for those who don't know, you know, in 2012, you know, after everything that my life had, you know, it had already been a book in itself, you know, and in fact, my book that I wrote was done. And then I had an incident that made me have to write a whole nother chapter, which actually became the beginning of the book. There was an incident where I got, let's just say there was an altercation.
Okay.
I
That happened to be
wound
front
up
page
getting
news. Yeah.
It happened to be front page news. All my friends from work saw it on like cab TV and saw it in the papers and on television. And long story short, I got jumped and I put some of them in the hospital and blah 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 blah. But Dave was there for every day of my court, and it gave me a little bit of moral support in a time when I really needed that. I just want you to know that really meant a lot to me because I was at a real low point in my life, you know, and I just want to say to those of you out there, like, yeah, you can pretty much survive just about anything. I believe this. I felt like, you know, my entire life, you know, like I lived such a rough life. And here I was, I'd finally gotten to a place where I thought my life was good. I had a family, I had my kids, this and that. I was with their mother for all these years. Life was, man, sure, life had its ups and downs, but I felt good about life, right? And then all of a sudden, my life went, you know, I get arrested, I get charged with all these things. The mother of my kids leaves me. Seeing someone else, all of a sudden she's taking my kids, taking me to family court. I'm in like, you know, all of a sudden it's like everybody I know is turned against me. I'm like publicly like turned into this arch criminal. Everybody I know turned their backs on me. Everybody, all the people that should have known better are like, oh, Harley finally lost his mind. Oh, Harley finally, I knew it was going to happen sooner or later. That River just wrote me off. You know, and by all rights, I should have given up. You know, I was sitting in Rikers Island, like looking at doing 3 years in jail, defending myself because a bunch of, you know, fake gangbangers assaulted me and then wanted to cry like, oh, he hurt me, he stabbed me, he bit me. Oh, you know, so I'm sitting here getting set up by a friend of mine. And I got everybody in the hardcore community just like, oh, well, oh, okay. And I got people who I know who were in the room when it went down, who are just like keeping silent. Everybody knew it went down. Got invited in, I got jumped on, set up, and then all of a sudden they realized they jumped on the wrong person.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm sitting there looking and I'm just like watching my life fall apart. I get out of Rikers to you know, to no kids, to a woman who's left me, to my life falling apart, to everybody I know turning on me. I'm sleeping on the street, I'm sleeping on roofs, I'm sleeping on parks. I'm really could have relapsed. I was ready to just, and then I just said, you know what? I'm not going to allow my kids see that. I'm not going to prove these motherfuckers right. I'm not going to live up to what they have already decided is my outcome. And I'm still here.
Well,
And I just, the people who stood by me, you were there.
Yeah. Well, you know, Harley, I remember.
And the woman that I married, she was there for me, and Henzo
That's right.
Gracie was there.
Yeah. I remember.
Henzo Gracie.
I remember when I was upstate when the news about that all broke, and I saw it. I guess I saw it on the internet from some newspaper, something like that, and my heart just cracked. 'Cause, you know, I hadn't seen you probably for 20 years, and my heart just really cracked. And I know that was such a challenging point in your life. You know, we all go through different ups and downs in life. That's something we talk about here a lot on our show. And I think you really showed how you could turn it into a blessing, and it has turned into a blessing. That's why, you know, both Raghunath and I are so happy to see you doing so well. And,
you know, I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for every day. I'm so grateful for every breath of air that fills my lungs.
There you go.
And I'm grateful for the few friends that I have, and I do consider you both to be those part of those friends. So
we'll always feel that way about you, brother.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
for everything you've done for us, Prabhu. I'm grateful.
Thank you guys just for being you, man. Just keep being you, man. You guys inspire me with just being who you are.
Thank you. Love to your family. Thanks everybody also for joining us. I know it's weird times coming out.
Hey man, you got to sleep late because of me. So when next time the program's on early, say, oh man, the best show was that one with Harley let us sleep late.
We had breakfast in bed. That was great.
Man, we got to play with the kids, you know.
We wake these up. We run a tight
leftovers.
We run a tight ship around here, Harley. We get these guys up.
Hey man, I've made tighter ships than this late. So
thanks everybody for joining us. I know it's late. And a big thanks to Harley Flanagan. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, Harley F. Flanagan. You're gonna get a bunch of new followers today, Harley. And and this is a beautiful message today of like give what you're inspired about, and you never know how it's going to change people's lives. Thank you so much.
Hey man, the last thing I'll say is this, man: be the example that you want to live up to. You know,
there's a little wisdom from the sage right there. Thank you, man.